We told you that this morning we were going to get you your sports fix, and specifically baseball. We should be in the midst of our Indian season right now here on Big Hits, but not to be with what's going on in our world, but we are going to give you a dose of baseball with one of the voices that becomes a part of our fabric of summertime, and that is Cleveland Indians baseball and Jim Rosenhaus, who does an amazing job on the radio every year for us. Rosie, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me on, Steve.
We're living in strange days indeed, and I just have to wonder with you. You would be out on the road a couple of times by now, and in the midst of the first month of the season, but not to be. How you holding up?
It's different. It really is different. Yeah, today, we'd be heading down to the ballpark to play Oakland, and then leaving after the game to go to New York for our annual visit to play the Yankees. And you get into that routine where it's day after day of baseball, and the season builds, and hopefully there's some drama in there by the end, and it's just not happening this year. So it's really different. Obviously, the plus side, you get to spend more time with family. I have two school-age boys, and so I'm spending a lot of time with my wife and those guys, and we're having fun. But it's, obviously, that in the back of your mind is you should be doing something else, and that's I think the hard part right now is just for everybody. We were talking before we went on. It's you miss baseball, you miss the game, but it's also your livelihood, and just like radio stations, it's not good if the Indians aren't playing for their business, and so. But
very true.
You balance that with the realization that right now it's an unprecedented time in our history worldwide. So you have to do what's right and just kind of wait it out, I guess.
And not only that part of it, but I imagine, Jim, for you guys, the timing when this happened, you were already deep into spring training, which means you were all tuned up and the players were getting in shape to get on the field for the real thing. And then all of a sudden the rug is pulled out from under you. How do you stop and then potentially gear up and start again?
Yeah, well, I've had a chance to talk to several of our players since the shutdown, and I think for pitchers it's a little more difficult because for them it's usually in spring training a 6-week buildup, and they were getting to the point when they did stop that they had one, maybe two more starts left, and then they'd be ready to go. So they were feeling really good about things. Shane Bieber, Adam Plutko, Aaron Savali, all those guys, they were just about set. And then Mike Clevenger was coming back from an injury, but he was just about back. And so the basic, it sounds like just talking to Mike Clevenger and Adam Plutko, they're kind of pulling back a little bit because they don't want to overdo it now in case when we do come back, they might make the season go extended further than the end of September. So they have to be careful in that way. So I think they'll probably be ready to get it going a little bit quicker than the normal spring training when we do get back, and I'm being optimistic they're saying when.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's definitely a challenge.
We're talking with Jim Rosenhaus, voice of the Cleveland Indians. I guess for a guy like Clevenger, though, you're nursing an injury. Having a little extra time is only going to help him as far as getting back to a full strength, I would think.
Yeah, he would not have been ready for opening day. He probably would have missed a couple of turns through the rotation. So now he's fine. He's fully healthy. His knee feels great, and he's throwing well and all that kind of stuff. So he would be ready. So yeah, it was a benefit for him. And Carlos Carrasco had an elbow issue too that he was kind of nursing through, and I think this will be beneficial for him. Obviously, the Indians would have rather started without them and taken their chances, and then just been ready when they got back. But for both of them, it'll be a benefit.
We've had great success with young players in Cleveland and some people that have come out of nowhere to become megastars like Corey Kluber. Now, of course, you've got the Biebers and the Clevengers and these younger guys stepping up to become stars. How's it looking, or how are your feelings on the shape of the team heading into what would have been the start of the season?
I think there were a lot of really good things happening. They did not make the postseason last year, and that really, when you've made it several years in a row and you feel like you have a good team and then you don't, guys were a little upset in the off season and had that little chip on the shoulder to try and get back. And to some extent, I think there's a feeling that they're trying to get back to the World Series,
right?
While they, realistically, while they still have Francisco Lindor, and I know, his contract's not up yet, but including this year, there's 2 years left, and I think realistically, for the Indians to be able to sign him would be a long, long shot. I mean, they're still trying to re-sign him and all that kind of stuff, or at least they were before the virus hit and everything.
Right.
But so I think to some extent they really felt they had everything lined up to make a real good run at this thing. And just talking to Mike Clevenger last week, he said, hey, we have a chance to do something special. And I think what he was concerned about was whatever happens this year, it's going to be a different schedule.
Sure, no doubt.
And the team that wins the World Series, people may look at them differently and then put an asterisk by it because of that. Right. And he said, this could be our year to win the World Series, and it's going to be different. So they're thinking about it in terms of how good they could be. So, yeah, young players, some established veterans, and it was looking really good at the time of the shutdown.
What's your thoughts? And I know you don't have any, inside information or anything like that. What do you think could possibly happen with moving forward here if things start opening up next month, and by early summer we are back to being able to get out together again as a public?
It's interesting because there's obviously you read a lot of stuff. I'm sure your listeners have read what I've read, and that's pretty much what you go by.
Right.
But MLB has been pretty consistent in saying that whatever's out there, yes, those are things that have been talked about, but there's nothing where they've gone down the road of specifics and really tried to attack some of the hurdles that they have to overcome. And those hurdles would be the health issues. I think if they can get some clarity on the health part of it and what they need to do, I think the rest of it will fall into place. Now, it might be different from what we're used to,
right, in
terms of maybe some more doubleheaders and a different playoff format. But I think that it's the health part of it that, deservedly so, they're really concerned about.
Absolutely, right. Rightfully so. And the other thing too is, we've heard the possibility of maybe doing games without fans in the stands and so forth. There's nothing like being at a ball game and being at the ballpark, but the way you and Hamilton paint the picture on our radios, that would be real therapy for me personally to be able to turn my radio on and hear a game, despite what may be going on in the stands or not in the stands. So that kind of excites me a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's what, a lot of people are looking toward from sports in general, just that, the fun of maybe just taking your mind off of some troubled times that aren't going to end just when they reopen things.
Sure.
To kind of get back on their feet. So, even if it were, look, it's obviously fans are such a huge part of it. Even the players talked about how weird it would be just to hear the crack of the bat, and you might be able to hear the left fielder talking with no fans in the stands, and that's not good. And so, who knows? It would be bizarre, but I think they might need to do that in the initial stages to get going. But then maybe they could get to a point where they could have fans. Maybe it's less fans than normal. For instance, Progressive Field has a capacity of a little more than 30,000. Maybe they have to limit that to 10 and spread everyone out. And that's just me talking. But so who knows? I think anything's on the table right now to try and get back to play.
Sure, keeping fingers crossed, because it is a big part of my life that is missing right now. It just kind of throws my whole clock off for the course of the year, not having baseball here in the spring. But we know that these are definitely unique times in our world. Interesting, too, talking with Jim Rosenhaus, this was the day back in 1952, the great Bob Feller, who had 12 one-hitters, he threw a 1-0 one-hitter loss to St. Louis on this day back in 1952. So a lot of historical milestones to still hang on to.
Yeah, I do that, this date in history daily. And, that was today, and then Rapid Robert had some great games, and that one he came out on the short side, unfortunately. But when he was at his best, you really thought, I think, that there could be a no-hitter every time out. And that one he came awfully close, and it wasn't good enough.
Right.
To win the game.
But a one-hitter is right. A one-hitter certainly is nothing to be ashamed of. That's for certain.
No.
But to lose the game, I guess, would be the most important part of it. I've been watching. Sports Time Ohio has been showing some of the classic games they were running. The ALDS from a couple of years ago here when we went to the series, and just to see those games and that kind of gets that adrenaline flowing once again. It's not the same as doing it for real, but we've got to be adaptive at these times.
Yeah, it'll be nice to watch games where you don't know the outcome.
Good point. Good point.
I'm getting tired. These games are fun, but you always know the ending.
That's true.
But it was kind of fun to see those, and from my perspective, obviously I was at the games and calling the games on radio, but it's kind of fun to watch them on TV.
It is.
You see some different stuff that maybe you either forgot about or maybe didn't realize because you're focusing on calling the game and doing that kind of stuff on the radio side. So it has been really interesting to watch some of those.
Yeah, the thing that caught my eye the other night, I was watching, it was the Yankees and the Mariners, I think from '89. It was when they show the people in the stands. It's like, my goodness, we look like people from the 1800s the way we were dressed and things like that. It hasn't been that many years ago. So
no, it hasn't. But
Jim,
it just needs to see some of the old stuff.
Jim Rosenhaus, just really appreciate you taking some time to catch up our Indians fans as to what's going on in your world and where we are with things, and hopefully can get back to some real baseball soon. Be safe. Enjoy the time, like you said. I think you've got it exactly correct. Look at the positive here. Spending time with your kids and your family that you wouldn't be doing right now normally. So that's priceless, actually.
Yeah, and it is a bonus. My oldest son's a high school junior, so there's not much time left for him at home. And this is certainly an added bonus for sure.
Be safe, and looking forward to catching up with you again soon. And thanks for all you do for all of us down here in Tuscarawas County. I don't know if fans realize how often you come down here to step up to help out and promote Indians and baseball in general. You had an event a month or two ago at the library here, and fans were just packed in to hear what you had to say. So that proves how much we love our baseball here.
Well, we had a great night, and I know there's some good baseball history down there for sure. And always a pleasure to come down and see you guys. Thank you, Steve.
Rosie, have a great day and be safe, and we will talk again soon.
All righty. Thanks.
Jim Rosenhaus, voice of the Cleveland Indians, joining us this morning, and hopefully joining us again on the radio very soon as we are your home for Indians baseball. Big Hits, WBTC.